Check it here. We are back with another edition of Semi-Pro Gridiron Rants. Of course, to my left, his right. I don't even know which side anything is anymore, but Kendall Anderson, the one and only Silver Fox over there.
Welcome back yet again, Mr. Hantke.
Yeah, I like your background now without all that fancy shit in there.
Yeah, I've been getting some. Hey, what happened to the old backgrounds? I think I'm just going to stick with the traditional helmets.
Stay where you're at. Stay where you're at.
Yeah.
And below us happens to be my dude, my man James Chaplin. We played back in the Shock days together, and welcome to the show, my friend.
Thank you, man. I enjoy watching you guys. It's an honor to be on the show.
Thank you. The honor's all ours.
We're dumbasses, so it's all good.
Perfect. So James, what we like to do, my man, is let's since we obviously we know each other through the Shock, right? James was my fullback, my first year coaching with the Shock, and he's a beast, folks. But we'll get into that. But he just shocked me with what he weighs in now and what he weighed in when he was playing. I was like, damn, I knew you were big, but I didn't know you were that big. But we'll get into that in a little bit. But so let's start from the beginning. When did you first start playing ball? And then kind of let's work up to, what you're doing now.
I first started playing ball 10th grade.
Oh, wow. Late start.
Late start. I tried out my freshman year, and it just didn't go as expected.
Mm-hmm.
I was in middle school, I was like 260, and I was like 5'5". So I was like around.
Roly-poly.
You were a big dude in middle school.
So, yeah, I get into high school, and they see me, and they're like, yo, man, you got to play. So I play, but it didn't last very long. I was fairly soft at the time.
Soft physically or mentally?
Both.
Okay. That's fair. At least you're honest. That's what we love.
Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely soft. And then that summer, I don't know what it was. It was a shift I quit, and then my mindset kind of changed. So that summer I kind of went back. I was at Corcoran at the time. And that summer I went back to the weight room, and funny story. So I walk into the weight room, and to the left they had benches, and they had like a mirror wall.
Hey folks, thanks for watching. Please do us a favor. Tackle that subscription bar, stiff arm the bell. That way you'll get notifications when our new episodes come out. Thanks again for watching.
Was this the old school? Was this the one off the gym?
Yeah, okay. The one off the auxiliary gym there.
Yep.
So I walk in there, and there's this lineman pushing heavy weight, and they're like, "Oh yeah, come over, Chaplin, come over." So I get under the bar, and they're like, "All right, now see if you can press this off the bar." So I grab it, I press it up, and it comes right off the bar. Bring it down to my chest, and I go to drive it back up, and it didn't move. So they picked it up off my chest, put it back on the rack, and from that day on, like, I pushed myself to be the best I can absolutely be. So I was in there every single day.
What year was that?
That had to be 2005.
Okay. So Schmidt was the head coach at Corcoran at the time.
Jesse Long was JV coach.
Yeah.
And I think was on that squad also.
So being embarrassed got you motivated, obviously, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. But they weren't like super embarrassed. Like, oh man, I can't believe you got that at the bar. And that right there was like, oh shoot, I can actually do this. All right.
Mm-hmm. That's a lot of the difference though. Like you see how some of these kids grow up now, they would have never even attempted that shit. Do you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe it was about 2010 is where that cutoff is of where kids mentally. You know what I'm saying? Like that mental is just not there, right? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's a huge drop off.
Okay, so you went from what was it? You said that was freshman. You didn't make the team, or JV? You didn't make the team.
My freshman year I made the team, but I quit.
Oh,
I ended up coming back the summer of my freshman year ended. So going into my 10th grade year, I was kind of like, okay, I'm gonna do this.
Right, and you were at what school? Corcoran still?
Yep.
Okay. So you hit the weights over the summer because you're a little bit embarrassed, right?
Mhm.
And then, what did you do in 10th grade? Was that JV, or because your size you got called up? What was the deal?
Oh no, Corcoran was very big at the time. We had a lot of big players. I think
Okay.
guys like Jacqueline and Ulysses Martin. Those guys were like at the top at the school. So
Was that said days, or was that Jolan days?
that was Jolan Day.
Jolan days. Okay,
That said was before.
that's right.
Said
Jolan Dunbar, Kenny, played for the Saints, Super Bowl champ.
I'm aware who that is.
Okay, I'm just trying to help you out.
I know a little bit of Syracuse history, not all of it, but I know who Jolan is.
Said used to come up and help the quarterbacks out. And,
Yeah.
You know, I see.
Okay.
I met him. From then on, though, they had me playing. I think I played interior line. I played D line, and then I played guard. And my first snap, my 10th grade year, was at offensive guard. And I get in my stance and I line up. And, like, we've gone through it in practice, but I've never been into like a live game situation. So immediately when the quarterback says down, I jump up and then I put my hand down. They never called me, but I definitely jumped.
That's like the old Dallas Cowboys style, right? You stand
Right.
Reset.
and
The
reset.
whole reset.
Yeah. So that was interesting. And from that point on, like, I just kind of started gearing myself in the right direction. Like, that year was rough for me because I didn't really produce anything. I barely started. It was more like a learning curve.
Right. Well, like I said when you first said that, that's a late start. Most of dudes, especially in the city, Minky, they start playing at Kirk Park and are 5 years old and they're rolling. You know, I didn't start till 7th grade, so I not as late as you, but 10th grade's a late start, especially in the city.
Yeah, but when you get to linemen, though, I mean, most linemen can't even play Pop Warner. So,
well, that's also true.
You know, at the time, so you're not starting until your freshman year. I mean, that's what I started when I was a freshman. I mean, end of my 8th grade year, start going to the weight room, meeting all the guys. Do you know what I mean? And that's where you develop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and a lot of my that, like, from my 5th grade year to my 11th grade year, which is me picking up the game. Because, like you said, a lot of the guys have played together. They were Pop Warner ball, and they were talking about all the days that they played at Pop Warner. So I didn't really have a leg to stand on. Really, it was just me gathering information and watching the guys do what they do. And but I always felt like when I started to get the game that I could do more. I had the intangibles. I was pretty fast to be as big as I was.
Mm-hmm.
And we were doing a lineman race at the end of the season, and I smoked everybody.
You smoked them all, didn't you?
Yeah, and somebody from the fence was like, "Wow, man, he moved really fast, man. That's a lineman." And I was like, "Yeah, that's a lineman." So, I mean, from there, I kind of figured that I could do more than I was actually being allowed to do.
Well, give yourself a lot of credit to you not quit. A lot of dudes would get frustrated at that point that they didn't play. You know, even though it's their first year. You know, unfortunately, especially with this new culture, everyone thinks that everyone's a starter, right?
Right.
So,
There were some frustrating times, man. I had some like intense conversation with some of the coaches, and so, you know, that there, and then at the time I felt like they weren't giving me the opportunity that I needed to show, but I didn't want to quit. I didn't want to stop. So I just kept pushing forward.
Cool.
So Chap has been introduced to Bertha, and Kenny, if you don't know who Big Bertha is the worst hill.
I was going to say, got to be a hill. Sounds like a hill.
It's the worst hill to run in the history of hills. Like, there's a lot of hills out there.
Is it steeper than the reservoir?
Just about.
Really?
Maybe a little bit more.
Wow.
More steeper, not as high.
Yeah.
But it was definitely steep.
Wow.
Yeah. There was
crazy.
2 ways when I was a freshman. We had a different coach than the coaches that Chap had, and we had to run diagonal up for as many points as we gave up in a game. So it didn't matter if we won or lost. We were running, right? So it was sprint and then walk down. And you would try to make that real quick turn, slow when you're at the top. And then
breather.
walk and get a breather. And then
roll down the hill.
Yeah, and then you didn't get a little pace coming down the hill. You got your ass chewed out. And then when Kaz and Schmidt and those guys got there the next year, it was a straight 50 or 60. It's about 50 or 60 yards straight to the top from the actual bottom of the hill.
Wow.
Right. And you had to go from the bottom, and then he'd make you bear crawl, and then you would. Oh my God,
it was torture. There was one game where we got completely blown out, and I want to say we played. This was on JV. We played West Jenny, and we got slapped. And I tell you, we spent the entire practice on that hill. Like there was points where I was going up the hill and I was sobbing.
Yep, yep.
Coming out of my nose.
Been there, done that, bro.
It was like, what are you doing? Keep going. I'm just like, I don't think I can keep
Coach,
going.
I can't breathe. Hit it more. And then, same thing. You get to the top and you take that real slow turn around the coach as slow as you can go. And then you would turn around and be like, shit. And then you have to go down the hill.
I got to go right back. And then they would make it so the lines were super short. So it was like 3 people in the line.
Yep.
So constantly moving. Constantly.
Ouch.
So, brother, tell us how you end up. You go from Corcoran, and then you end up at Fowler, I believe, right?
I did end up at Fowler. So, 2007, my brothers entered high school, and my mom was like, "You got to go with them." And the whole time, I'm like begging and pleading with her, and not.
You've developed yourself at Corcoran at this
point.
Yeah.
And I've been there for 3 years. I have a friend base. Like I have people that I know and I talk to. And I did have people at Fowler because when I started playing football, I also started wrestling at the same time. So it wasn't a huge transition, but it wasn't one that I wanted to make due to at the time, the rumors about Fowler and, everything that was going on.
Yes,
so
sir.
What are the rumors about Fowler?
Before I went there, was like they were finding like cocaine in the wall.
In the wall.
Stabbed in the bathroom. And
they had Kenny, they have rubber matting on the floors. Yeah. And I remember I went there for summer school. I'm like, yo, this is how they clean the blood up real fast when they get to fights and people get stabbed. It's a rubber floor. It's real easy. And then I remember they're like, you can't say that anymore in the hallway with all these kids. You're a senior. I'm like, I'm saying though, like I'm wrong, but
right. Yeah. So if you imagine like Eastside High,
yep.
That's what I felt like I was walking into. You know what I'm saying? There's gonna be chains on the doors and bars on the windows.
No, I've been by it a few times because I think Marty Clanton lived up the street from there. Isn't that the one with like it's got the big chain link barbed wire fence around? It's right on the street, right close to the street.
Yep, it's not barbed wire. It's like a
pole.
Yeah, it's just.
Oh, gotcha. Okay,
yep.
But yeah, it was. And the school's like way off, right in the fields between there and the school. Yeah, okay.
Right.
Yep.
So when I got there and like my first day stepping through the hall, it was nothing like anybody had ever said. It was actually a pretty nice school. Everybody like welcomed me in there, and the guys that I wrestled with for a long time were very accepting and helped me get through and get me and my brothers acclimated to the school. So that was pretty cool. But the first person I meet when I walk into Fowler is John Natoli.
Oh, my boy Johnny.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and it was John Natoli and Dave Sturpey was the defensive coordinator.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
And those guys really helped guide me to the field, So that transition was a little weird, but it kind of corrected itself pretty quickly. I ended up meeting a girl. I had a girlfriend at the time, so everything was just kicking off. And that's how we got to the football season. I met some pretty cool guys on the team, and that was my first experience playing linebacker.
Oh, okay. So they moved you to linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
How big are you now in 11th grade?
When I walked the door this summer, I put on probably about 50 pounds.
Wow.
Just being in the weight room. So I walked in the doors at like 235, 240.
Perfect.
And you're how tall?
I was about 5'10", 5'11".
Yeah, high school. That's
a thick
dude.
Size
high school.
Yeah.
That's a
big
dude.
So I had grown quite a bit, and the weight room. I feel like the weight room at Corcoran really built my foundation strength wise.
Mm-hmm.
So I was able to go in because the lifting culture at Fowler was like non-existent at the
time. Totally different.
Yeah. So it was just me in the weight room most of the time. Me and a kid by the name of Brian Doyle. He was our outside linebacker. That well, he played outside originally. When I got there, he was moved to middle linebacker, and then I was moved to the Sam, and then we had my boy by the name of TJ. He was moved
you're 250 pounds playing the Sam.
Yes.
Wow, you could move.
Hawking people.
You could move then. I thought you were playing the mic. I'm like, yeah, that makes sense at 250. Yeah, Sam. Hello.
Sam linebacker. And a lot of time I've dealt with tight ends, and then like we had those running teams like Fulton.
Yep.
Mexico, it was blitz.
Yeah,
Blitz.
I mean, you got to think that, those schools, they're not throwing the ball. They might be now, but those offenses didn't really exist, you know what I mean, in 2007,
Not at all. They were running. So,
Yeah.
a lot of the times I was pushed to stop the run.
Yeah.
I think I had a guy by the name of DJ Ingham. He was at Fulton, and I used to wrestle him. And him in pads was ginormous. He was about 6'2", 6'3", and he would just be coming through. And in the whole game, it was just me and him running into each other. So that was a fun time for me. I enjoyed myself there, and it got to show the world. I remember we had went for a passing league that summer when I had moved to Fowler, and we had to face Corcoran, and there was a running back. I want to say his name was Jaheim. He was super fast, super shifty, like one of the best on the team. So we were in passing league. And this is my first time in the open field, and my job was to keep my eyes on him and follow him wherever he goes. So first snap, he takes off out the backfield and goes straight up the sideline. And my coach was like, "All right, this is it." So I open my hips, I track his, I turn, and I'm running stride for stride with the kid, and the ball goes in the air. And everybody's like, "Look up, look up, look up." And I did not know what to do, so I just threw my hands in the air. The ball hit my hands, and the ball hit the ground, and everybody just started screaming. So I'm like, yo, this is ridiculous, because I've never been in a situation like this before. And I've never had to cover someone. I'm a lineman playing linebacker. This is my first time just learning the game, so everything is like going in my head, moving pretty slow. But that was the defining moment for me. That made me feel like I can play the position. So,
well, yeah, sounds it. So, any offense that year?
I did play a little fullback. We had a fullback by the name of Chucky, but he was an absolute ox. I think I played a little bit of fullback. I lined up at receiver maybe one time, but I never caught the ball.
255-pound dude in the slot.
Yeah, just, what I'm saying? Hey, you already know what's going on.
He ain't getting the ball. He's blocking somebody. You ain't got to worry about him.
Right. Here comes a sweep.
Yep.
So senior year. So you get to, you said you're a wrestler. So were you on varsity in 11th grade as a wrestler?
When I came in, I started wrestling in 10th grade. And when I came in 10th grade, I was on JV. But I picked the sport up really quickly, like anything hands-on.
I'm guessing a heavy, right? You didn't suck weight much?
So I was wrestling at heavyweight for a while. And I was not very good. I think my first tournament, I got pinned in 5 seconds. And then the second match, I just got dominated by points. And I was just like...
Bro, that was my entire life in 8th grade. My entire life in 8th grade was getting my ass kicked wrestling. I'm like, I don't ever want to do this again. This is terrible.
See, that my mentality was, so let's go back and how I got into it. So my brother, Elijah Graham, he came to me one day and was like, "Yo, man, some coaches are talking to me and they said we should try out for the wrestling team." And I was like, I mean, like WWE wrestling, or are you talking about Olympic style wrestling? Like, oh man, Olympic style. So we had an agreement, a bet, if you will. If one of us quit, we both would quit. So, I mean, the day we walked through the door, we immediately fell in love, and neither one of us quit.
It's a great sport. I mean, and especially down at Fowler, I had Spicer when I was 8th grade, mm-hmm. and he was the head coach down there, and it was great. I mean, there was a lot of cool things that you did, but it wasn't my style. But some people, like I said, they just fell in love, man.
The workouts were definitely grueling, terrible. Yeah. But I guess the people around you make it better. Like you said, Spicer was one of the first people I was introduced to. Like, he was the one pushing the pace. He the one that came to Elijah. So when I was coming in, he was transitioning out to be an AD.
Gotcha.
So I had Coach Kareeb and Coach Howard. They were both brothers. So Jarman Howard and Kareeb Howard, they were like everything that my base level was everything I got from them. Kareeb was the state champ. His brother was a section champ. And we also had this 40.
I think those dudes wrestled when I was in high school because I'm from Fulton and I remember a Howard. I can't remember his first name, but he was a bad man.
Agreed. He was little. He was little, but he could.
Yeah, because I remember that. A lot of my buddies were wrestlers. Obviously through high school, they were Fulton dominated New York State during that time frame. But okay, so cool. So you're wrestling. You're playing some football. You're getting acclimated to your new school very successfully. So along comes senior year. Tell us a little bit about your senior year.
Oh man, senior year was definitely interesting. I ended up having a great season. I got into the linebacker position pretty well. Like our team was getting out there. I mean, Fowler, we're not in a big class, but this year, my senior year, 2008, was the first year we made it to, the playoffs. So with the core, we had a super smart safety by the name of Keandre Johnson. He was running the defense the entire time. Like coach really never had to do anything. And that was just a building block for knowing like I can actually do this. That was my first step into playing a skill position, if you will. But from there on, we excelled there. We didn't actually make it very far to playoffs. The first game we played like Weedsport or something, and they knocked us out like 42-0, and that was a little crushing. But like after that, it was on to wrestling. And my senior year in wrestling was something magical. I went 32-0. During the regular season, and the only people I lost to was the guy who won the section, and then a couple of guys who were like ranked in the state. And after I lost in the sectional finals, which was horrible. That's a funny story. Let me tell you that one. So I'm dominating the guy. I think I'm up 12-0. And
about ready to tech fall him.
Right. It's the third period, and they ask, "What do you want to take?" And everybody's like, "Yeah, go down, go down, go down." You know what I'm saying? If you go down to referee position, you pop back up, you get a point. There you go. So I was arrogant at the time. So I was on the ground, like, I'm just gonna rest here, write a timeout, hang out a little bit. And I remember like, okay, I'm done. Trying to stand up, and this guy had long arms. He reached up and like grabbed a quarter Nelson, they call it. So both hands on my neck, and he's pulling down. He's got my back foot trapped, and I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna roll out of it. I've never seen the move before. I've never practiced it. I roll into his move, and he ends up
ouch,
in the middle of the mat in front of everybody with a 12-0 lead for me, and that kind of broke me after that. That was tough. But I ended up getting a wild card to the state championships. I ended up playing sixth in the state, and I ended up beating him out to get that sixth place finish. So that was pretty cool for me.
Okay, awesome. So you had a great see. And folks, you're probably going to say, why are we talking about wrestling? You'll see. We're foreshadowing here, folks. We're foreshadowing. So you graduate, right? Any college ball?
I dabbled at Morrisville. I went to a couple other schools. It just didn't work out. I just was a school guy, but I ended up like coming back home and then hearing about the semi-pro team that was here. My cousins that played for the Express. I think they played with you, Jamie.
Who's that?
Shandu and Idris.
My boys, Du and Idris.
Yeah, those are my cousins. And every day in church we hear talking about going to play semi-pro ball, coming home with wins and national title, and like that stuff was like
probably two of the best outside linebacker tandems.
What's their last name?
Finch.
I was going to say this, the Finch brothers, isn't it?
And then their brother, and then
Jamal. Didn't one play safety?
Jamal played safety. Corner. He came as a corner.
Those guys were beasts.
Funny story about those guys is, I want to say 2002 is when Jamal started with us, and then we were terrible. Like, we were awful, right? And I think we were 0-5. Jamal had been playing with us, and then I believe Shandu or maybe Idris, one of the two, started, and then they all were there. And we're playing Rondecoy at Griffin Field, which doesn't exist anymore. Still one of the best places to play ever.
For sure.
We're 0-5. We're playing Irondequoit. They're beating us 7-0, and all of a sudden our defense just took over. And those guys, that's when they just started dominating. I mean, you couldn't stop them. Left, right, they were blitzing all over the place. I think Idris may end up scoring a touchdown, and then we scored an extra 2 points. I think we won like 8-7, and then we went 5-5, went to the playoffs, and made it to the championship game. It was just one of those seasons, you know what I mean? All of a sudden, but yeah, those dudes were major players when we won the national title in '04, big time.
Absolutely, and huge motivators to step
good dudes
playing, man, and I really appreciate them for that. So that summer, I had just won my second Empire State Game gold medal in Greco-Roman wrestling,
which is hard to do.
It's difficult.
Hard to do.
It was very difficult. Guys from all over the state. I mean, good guys. This guy by the name of Ken Alterac, and he was a national champion. And I think my first gold medal was a win over him. And then my second one, I ended up beating Ken Alterac again in Manhattan. And then I had to face a guy by the name of Tony James, I want to say, and he was the national champion that succeeded Ken, and I ended up pinning him in like 13 seconds. So like after that, there was I didn't want to continue with school. I didn't want. I wrestled a couple more tournaments. I wrestled a couple of tournaments at Brockport. It was this huge pre-quals to the qualifier for the Olympic trials, and it was like guys from Penn State and Ohio State. I think the training partner for the national champion at the time at heavyweight was from Ohio State, and they were there. So I ended up placing third in that tournament, and I got qualified to go to the pre-quals, but you needed $10,000 for the.
Of course you did.
And
of course you did.
I did not have that kind of money.
You didn't? I mean, what the hell? You're
Pocket
what,
change,
19
brother.
years
That's
old?
pocket change.
You should be rolling in it by 19, shouldn't you?
I should be, but I didn't have it. So at that point, I committed to myself, like, you know what? I'll go out and see what Semi-Pro has going on.
And what year was that?
That was,
Was that 2011, 2010?
2010.
2010, right? Yeah.
2010, because I was so.
That was my first year there, right?
Yeah, that was your first year there, and I was commuting from Geneva because I was working at a international camp for the Salvation Army. So I was driving to practice from camp, and then my mother was taking me back, and then on Saturdays she'd bring me up to the game. So yeah, that's when I started playing. Was 2010.
And your brother was on the team. Was that his rookie year too?
That was his rookie year as well. We both agreed to hop on the team. So
that kid was a hell of an athlete, but we know him and I got into it a couple times. Still love that dude. I still talk to him, man. He's a good dude. He just, he was off track for a little while.
Yeah, man. He really struggled, man. But I mean, as you see, over time builds growth, and he's out there doing great things. So
he's doing great stuff now. He's another one I'd like to get on here eventually with his boxing and whatnot. So, James, Big James comes into the Shock. I'm the OC at the time, 2010. And this mountain, 6'2" I thought he was 260. He just told me he was 300.
300 pounds.
He was swole. He was swole, Kenny.
Playing fullback and could move. Now, he wasn't as fast as Flash and Justin, but this cat could move for a big fella. So that's probably why I didn't think he was 300 and thought he was 260. But we put him at fullback. And were you an all-star that year?
I was an all-star that year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I thought so. So this dude, first of all, I remember trying to throw him the ball first couple times. We tried to throw fullback screens, and he's one of those dudes that were like crossing his hands over, and I'm like, yeah. And then we had
he's a blocking fullback.
We had to teach him a few.
Fullback.
I had to teach him a few things to tweak in his blocking, but once he picked that up, dude, it was a wrap. I mean, we've got film. Flash just put on a piece from when we played in Fulton.
Yeah,
and he runs a sweep. Dude, and the linebacker comes off the edge, and you drive him right to the sideline.
No, that I was watching that video.
Such a pretty play.
I remember that play.
Dude, I told you, he walked in the huddle. This is legit. He walked in the huddle and said, "Look, if I score, I'm running out of the stadium." Exactly. So I think it might have been an off tackle right or something. James comes up through me.
There's a sweep left.
And it was the left. It was left.
Yep.
So he goes around, and we're going, and I see James throw the guy. James picks the dudes up.
He chucks
off
him
his
so
feet,
far, the
just-
guy almost catches Flash
just
because he
driving
releases him.
And Flash is gone, and we're all just standing there like the 50, just
Right.
just like this, just watching. I'm like, I'm just walking down there now.
And then he runs out the back of the end zone and goes thanks the ticket person for collecting
Such
tickets.
an idiot.
He's such a knucklehead. But yeah, so James comes into camp, monster of a man, plays fullback, picks it up. Again, we had a few extra lessons with him. Once he learned the position, though, dude. And then I love giving the ball on short yardage. There were a couple plays, dude, where you were like a bowling ball and people were just bing, bing. They're trying to hit. I remember one, I can't remember who it was against, but we're on like maybe the 7-yard line. And I give it like a dive left, like just a 31 dive. And all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. All these dudes are bouncing off you. And you walk in the end zone like nothing even happened.
I remember that. I think we were playing Finger Lake Impact because
that sounds right.
When I got to the end zone, there was a safety just standing there right in front of me. And I'm just like, he better move because I'm not. And he stood there and I ran him over. You can hear the echoes from our helmets clashing through the whole stadium. Now I just heard the crowd go, "Oh!"
There's several of those with you.
Right.
The funny thing about you is like when you got the ball, it kind of looked like you know how the Flintstones, when they get their feet going like this, that's kind of how it reminded me of you because you're just so big. And then all of a sudden, boom, once you got going downhill, boy.
Oh, yeah, like a juggernaut, man.
I'd be like flinching from the side, like going, oh, shit, he's going to hit that linebacker. Oh, shit.
And James had probably the ugliest helmet that you could have.
The worst. The dog came down to my chest. Like it was
straight. He had the one bar going right. Like you had like a lineman helmet. I'm like, dude, what?
Yeah.
The first time I came back to play, I'm like, dude, what the hell kind of helmet you got? Yo, man, it works though. What?
I love that helmet. I loved it. I still have it, actually.
As you should. You should.
So, I mean, yeah, like I remember a couple of times I would block my behind or I would block my ass off just to get an opportunity to run the ball. I remember we were playing at home. I think we were playing at Henninger, and this is when we had Joe Roy.
Yep.
At running back also, and
boy Joe Roy.
It was a 30. I want to say it was like a 31. Another 31. So I hit the hole, and Joe Roy said the hole opened up, and I just went through it, and then it immediately closed behind me. And that's the game I had like a 60-yard run, and I made it to the 2-yard line and got tackled.
Did I give you the ball again?
You did give me the ball, and I ended up getting it in. But
good.
Nick will say that I fumbled.
He couldn't breathe. He couldn't breathe when he was at that 2-yard line. But
I usually try to do that, especially for the big boy. You know, when the fullbacks get the ball and they break one and don't score, I feel bad. So I try to get him the ball the next play. Or
you absolutely did, man. Put the ball right back in my hands. The tight end at the time, Nick Lady, he would say that I fumbled, but
always.
I clearly stepped over the line.
They blew the whistle and put the hands up. That's all that matters.
Right.
There's no instant replay at our level.
When I got into the end zone, the ball head came out and he jumped on it and kind of like curled over it. And I'm just looking at him like, man, it's already over.
It's my touchdown. You can't have my touchdown back. My touchdown.
And in blowouts, we'd line you up as a tailback a couple times.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And we give you the ball with a lead blocker, which, dude, and his lead blocker was as big as he was. Sometimes we put Baby D or Mo back there or both of them at the same time with you. And we just go, what do we call that? Sumo, right?
Package.
Sumo package.
Yeah. I remember that.
You guys would crack me up. And then that one that Baby D took to the house, like 40-something yards, and outran the safety. I'm like, what are you kidding me? Who is this dude? That was hilarious. Oh, you guys were funny. Blowouts were great, man, because that's when we could really start showcasing your guys' talent.
Right.
All right, we're gonna give Flash and Justin a break. We're gonna let the big boys do a little ground game here.
Go crazy.
Well, the funny thing is I think that might have been, that was 2 years before I came back, but like you didn't have linemen then. You know what I mean? You had like a Chico playing line.
Right.
He's not a lineman. You know what I mean? And you had, there's a couple guys that just they weren't linemen. Like you should, you know what I mean? Like things that you were doing, you shouldn't have been doing but you had guys that could outrun everybody. So.
Well, yeah. I mean, listen, let's be honest. If and this was kind of, so that year before you came in, I actually used 5 starting quarterbacks and we went undefeated, right? And went into the title. So I used 5 starting quarterbacks throughout the season, some due to injury, some due to chicanery. some due to trick plays. But I mean, I had 5 quarterbacks, and we basically we ran every week. I changed the offense. We kind of did like the Patriots do now. We 1 week we'd run the Maryland Eye, the next week we'd run the wishbone, the next week we'd run the diamond. Right, we ran the diamond. Another week we'd run just out of split. We would just keep changing up, so the offense was different every week. And that's because we had the athletes. But like you said, we didn't really have the line at that time.
Yep.
But we were loaded with athletes. So I'm just like, all right, let's start messing around. And then once James picked up blocking and Flash, and we finally figured out how to get Flash and Justin in the game together. Dude, and Smurf, right? We got Smurf. That's why I went to the Maryland Eye, because Smurf was there. We had to figure out a way to get all 3. And then we had another dude, I forget his name, 4th running back, that if we didn't have Flash, the kid probably would have, Flash and Justin, that kid would have ran for 1,000 yards for the year. I mean, it was that good. I can't remember his name was, but damn, that kid was good too. I felt bad. I'm like, Jesus, we're deep as hell at the running back spot. So
it's so much talent on that team. It was ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. It was nuts.
And that was just like insane. I loved it. Like when 2010, I think I played up until 2012, and that's when I got to play with Chico and I got to play with Jamie, and like that. Those were probably like the best football times I've had in my life. Like those were incredible times.
2012's team was probably next to that 04 team, like just young guys that could play. Enough veterans on the team that could lead. You know what I mean? And you actually had lines on both sides. It's tough in semi-pro to put a full offensive line together. Yeah. And usually you might get 1 or 2 guys. Very rare do you get a full line. And when you do, you could just watch the magic happen at that point.
Well, we were in the 3rd year of the offense, right?
Yeah.
So people getting used to the term. I know we had a lot of new guys, but I mean, TJ was fabulous at quarterback. We had,
you had Mel. You had Mel at tight end.
Mel's one of the most impressive athletes I've ever seen for a guy. He was fantastic. We had who's our boy? We had Ty Gage and we had Burke. Ty Burke out in slot. So we were just stacked.
Yeah, Booty. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where you just look. You're like, okay, you know what I mean. You're like, all right. I mean, we probably should have won a league title that year, but we let ourselves get in the way of that one. But
we did. We got in our own way. Well, egos, right? The problem was we went on a streak of where, like at one point, not counting the years before, we won like 27 games in a row. The only game we lost was against Albany in the championship.
Yeah.
So we were on this streak that was ridiculous.
Oh, what did we lose? Albany in 2011.
Yeah.
In the title at
right. Yeah. And then when 2012 came,
yeah.
I mean, let's be honest, egos were a little high because we were pretty good, and we had beaten Albany earlier in the year. That was that game that was back and forth. We went up by 2 scores. They came back and went up by a score. Then
that's where I spiked the middle linebacker on his head because he dove over the top and tried to hit TJ.
Yeah,
and I picked him, and then we started fighting. Yeah.
And then Flash wins the game with like a freaking 95-yarder where they had him stopped and he puts his hand down on the ground and outruns everybody.
Yeah. Did we play? We played. South Buffalo that year, right? The Celtics, right?
Yeah, they whooped our ass.
And James, you remember we walked out, and here I am, the big dude on the team, right? I'm 6 foot. At that time I think I was like 390. You walk out and you look, and they got 8 guys that are as big as I am, and we're long. Yeah. I'll never forget. Like somebody screenshotted the captain walk out, and there was like 3 dudes, and you're like, what the hell is going on right now? Both their interior defensive tackles were just as big as I was. They couldn't put their hands on the ground either.
That team was stacked. Ron Anderson did a great job putting that. That
was
team
good,
together.
man. They had a good squad.
Yeah, they were stacked. So, all right. So we had a great time. Semi-pro ball. James was one of my boys, man. He was one of the dudes that and I used to talk a lot and sideline and goof around, and he was always funny. He's always entertaining. So he was just one of my dudes, and I loved giving him the ball because most of the time it was fun to watch because he just tortured people. So once you got out of football, let's tell us what what was the next thing to.
So during that time, while I was playing football, actually, I was also fighting at the time. I think I got a call around the same time from
Define fighting for the viewers.
MMA. I was got involved in mixed martial arts. I got a phone call from Gene Mills, who is. His name speaks for himself.
The man.
Yeah, the absolute. Yeah. He's a great wrestler, and I used to work with him a lot. when I wrestled in high school, I used to wrestle for a club team in the off season, which is how I've been to Germany and all these other great countries and travel the world. I got to do that with a club called Mohawk Valley Wrestling Club, and he actually called me on the phone one day. He's like, "Hey James, you think you want to come down and try out some MMA?" And I was like, "You know what, Coach? Anything for you, man. I'll come see what's talking about." He's like, "Great, we'll sign you up. We're looking for a heavyweight." So the first day I walk into this little garage, it used to be a truck garage. They used to fix trucks, and they just laid mats down, and we used to go in there and bust our ass every day with the heater on in 90-degree heat. It was 9 degrees outside, but the heater on was inside. And so I would split my time. So 3 days a week I would be training for fighting, and then 2 days out of the week was practice for football, and then on Saturdays I played football. And when there was no games on Saturday, they were usually scheduling fights. So like the whole time I'm just busy back and forth. So when football was ultimately over, I got to focus 100% of my time on MMA, and I ended up fighting probably over 20 times. Some were unsanctioned, some were sanctioned. That's when it started to become legal and get big in New York. So I got to spend a lot of time with G Mills and Tim Boda. A guy named Mark Gervais used to run East West out in Liverpool, but now he's at Ultimate Athletics and there in Phoenix and Three Rivers Plaza. But after that, I kind of went on a tangent and went on a win streak doing that. And in 2014, I ended up breaking my hand in a cage fight. So,
with no gloves on or anything, was it
no,
just open fist or?
I had my gloves on. I was throwing a hook and it landed, but I hit him right in his orbital socket, and it just like kept going, and the metacarpal just snapped in two. So the whole time I'm thinking to myself, like, something is going on with my hand, but the fight was still going on. I'm still throwing punches.
So you kept fighting.
Yeah. So the bone.
His eyes falling out.
Yeah, his bone broke here. Like I have a picture, you can see like the bone like twisting back like this, and he holds his face and starts to run away. And I was like, "Where are you going?" So I just line him up and I sidestep with him, kicked him right in the face. He drops to the ground. I just started hammer fisting him with the hand that I broke. So it ended up like pushing the bone.
Ow. Yeah.
In between my other pedicarpal. So I had to get surgery done for that. And then immediately after that, like 6 months later, I go back into training and I hit my training partner and the screws come up and the plate bends.
Ooh.
So they had to take that plate out, and that sidelined me for, I want to say, a year and a half. I was out just trying to get my hands strong and get back into a mindset where I was ready to fight again. So, after football, like I devoted my time into that and trying to be the best I could at that.
After you break your hand, you end up fighting again after that, and after finally everything healed up, or?
So I always had issues finding fights, and after
as
that,
do most super heavyweights.
right.
Gee, I wonder why 350 built like a brick shit house. I don't know why I can't get a fight.
Well, when I stopped playing football, that's when I became like small. I got down to like 250.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Chap was like legit, Kenny. He was like legit. I remember where we at Sharkies. He had just won Gladius, I want to say, right?
Yeah.
And he's in there with his belt. Like, yo, what's up, dogs?
Oh, so
yeah.
I won that belt in Utica Underground. It's a promotion out of Utica.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Yeah.
And I ended up fighting this. Nobody would fight this one guy. He was undefeated, huge, bald head, like white dude, which is yoked. And my coach gets on the phone with the promoter, and he's like, "Yeah, I got a guy, but nobody wants to fight him." He was like, "Listen, I got a guy that'll fight him and beat him."
Pressure's on.
Right. When he told me that, I'm like, I mean,
you're like, bro, can you not just throw all that out there?
I was like, I guess I got to beat him now. Like, right. Geez. So we get there, and at the time I'm training with Ahmad Burks, who was one of a very good running back who played at Bill in CNS and Corcoran, actually.
Papa Duke's coached 3 years one back in the Express days?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And I got to work with him, who was when I tell you he is still like a conditioning guru. He is a conditioning guru. So I still train with Ahmad, and I still work with his dad from time to time. Once this pandemic is over, I'm trying to get back in the cage. But at that time, we were at Utica, and we were sitting back in the back locker room, and I'm just sweating. Like I feel like I'm about to puke. I'm like, this is huge. I'm in the main event. It's about midnight, and we're in this back locker room. And I step out of the locker room, and I go to walk to the cage, and his daughter walks past me because she was leaving his locker room. So I'm like, all right, his family's here. Cool, bet. So
that was all planned, by the way, all part of the psych out.
I don't know what it was that just flipped a switch in my head, but as soon as I saw her, I'm like, I'm about to destroy this man. Go to the cage, and I take my shirt off, and my coach says that at the time I had a coach named Pat. I can't remember his last name right now. Pat McGrill. And he looks at me. He's from Boston. He's like, yo, I want you to go in there and just keep moving. All right, don't even stop. Wait till when he comes in the ring, just keep moving. I'm like, all right, Pat, I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna just keep moving and just keep bouncing around. So like that was our like, oh, he's in shape. Like he's an in shape fighter. So the bell rings, and the first thing I do, I throw a Superman punch, and I just walk him down into the cage. And the whole time, I'm just whooping him against the cage, brutalizing him. And the first round is over. We go back to our stools. And I sit down, and Ahmad goes, "You think you could take him down?" And I was like, "Nah, man. He's way too strong." He was like, "Boy, I should slap you. I had never heard you say that before in your life." But honestly, like my adrenaline was so high. If I was to go take him down, I feel like I would blow my gas like immediately. So we get back to the cage. I throw a jumping kick. I continue to beat him up. I take him down, pound him out for a little bit. Ultimately, I win the fight. And they raise my hand. I'm walking back to the locker room, and his daughter walks past me again. She's like, "I can't believe you did that to my dad. Why did you do that to him?" I'm like,
"It was her fault."
The game. I'm sorry you witnessed that. And I just go back in the locker room, and me and Ahmad go finish 3 bottles of Patron.
All right, good celebration.
If you know Ahmad, like Ahmad will put it down. Like it's like I've known Ahmad since he was, I don't want to say 12, 13. Shit, that was that long ago. Yeah. Yeah. I actually talked to him the other day, but it's
sometimes like after we go work out and lift together, and after a workout we'll go to his house, turn the grill on, have a 30 rack, and just.
He does that too. He'll post IG stories. I'm like, man, this dude is a fool, man.
Jesus. Yeah.
But that was his dad, though. But that you know what I'm saying? Like, not when I knew him, but his dad would tell us stories about. Listen, when I used to bounce back in New York City, like his dad would tell us stories, and you're just like,
his dad
not messing with you. You are a bad man.
He is something. He has not changed too. Whenever he has barbecues at his house, and he's like, "Oh, James, man, you better come. And when you come, you better bring a bottle of Patron." So every time I come to the cookout,
he does too. Yeah,
I bring a bottle of Patron, and everybody brings one, and we just find our way through them. So he was a huge part of my training process also, because without that dude and having I would go through training partners left and right, like for 3 years, 4 years consistently. Like that dude's
the Mike Tyson of local MMA. Nobody wanted to, if the sparring partners were afraid of Tyson in his prime. So
well, because James doesn't have a low gear. Do you know what I'm saying? Like even when we played football, it was he's on full go.
Right.
And either you're getting out of the way or you're getting fucked up. Like it didn't matter. You know what I'm saying?
Here comes a train.
And the only time that he was putting it low gear when he was jogging off to the sideline to get a blow for, you know what I mean?
And he was usually laughing. I remember him running to the sideline. He used to do this thing when he'd come up to me during the sideline, and he'd kind of like move his head. He'd be walking like this, running like just being a complete knucklehead running towards me. Just like, look at this clown. He's just a good dude. So listen, I know you got stuff going on tonight, so I definitely appreciate you squeezing this in for us. So we won't keep you much longer, but we have a tradition. Hantke, hit it.
And I wasn't there for his first year, but all right. So we all have semi-pro fight stories, right? Everybody has a semi-pro. I mean, we've told them here on the show. But take us through. All right, maybe your rookie season. You're not used to fighting in semi-pro because you're like, you come out of high school or college and you're like, this is football. Like, what are we doing, right? Mm-hmm. So give us one of those fight stories because and I know you got them because the 2 years we played, I think you smacked some people around a couple times, but give us one of those fight stories to wrap up your time with us, man.
This fight, it's not as long, so I got a funny story for Ken and a fight story. So I think we were at home, and Flash ran a sweep or whatever, and I was out there blocking, and I was just jogging, and I could hear commotion behind me. So the next thing you know, someone hits me on like the side of my chin strap, and I just like flip. And when I got back up and I popped up and I looked around, I could see our bench clearing, and I don't know, remember who we were playing, but I saw someone take their helmet off and whip it across the field, and I immediately started jogging towards the hole because I just tried to jump in there and see what's going on. I wish I could remember who we were playing, but it was a throwdown. Benches cleared. Dude was talking about going to the car, popping the trunk, threatening refs. Like that was.
So I'm gonna guess, and I'm having a blank. I can't remember who it is either, but that sounds to me, based on the intensity, that might have been Finger Lakes.
Because they were wearing gold and black, that was Finger Lakes.
Because those dudes and us,
we did not get along.
We did not get along because they would always talk about, we were like their Super Bowl. So every time they played us, and we smacked them. And I'd never lost to them. Now, they were a great team, but they just couldn't find a way to beat us. And they played us close a couple times.
They did. Like every time they got back, they were tough.
Yeah, we blew them out a couple times, but they also played us tight. I'm just going to guess, based on the way you were describing that, might have been Finger Lakes because that's about the only team that really wanted to scrap with us. So,
last little bit, we were at Finger Lakes. I was running the ball down the sideline, and somebody was like, "Oh man, that Sambo's fast." And you're
going to sell this story.
Wow, it was funny to me.
And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't Finger Lakes. It was Ithaca Warriors.
Was it them?
It was Ithaca. Same color scheme, different team.
Okay, so I'm running, and then I thought it was hilarious because I'm just like, what is going on? So I do my thing. I'm trotting off the field like, yo, coach, man, like, what's a Sambo? And you just start laughing. Like, somebody called me that? And I'm like, yeah, man, they did. I had no idea. So that was hilarious, and like that was a cultural moment for me also. That you helped. So that's why.
So the reality is in
some of those rural areas.
Yeah, because they were they were called the Southern Tier Warriors, I think is what they were called.
Yeah. Yep. And they're
so maybe
still
it wasn't
there,
Ithaca. Maybe it wasn't as good. So here's the reality of the situation: is they were like 90% a white team. They did have some brothers on the team, but you weren't the only one they were talking that about. They were just saying it, and I actually reported them to the refs, and they finally started saying something. But because and I'm glad you kind of brought that up because with what's going on in the world today, we turned it into a joke because it was just ridiculous. And I did laugh because I'm like, I was actually shocked you didn't know what it meant. That's why I started laughing. That's how innocent you are, right? This 300-pound dude comes up to me in the middle of the game and says, "Coach," and he, like I said, he comes running off the field like this because he just busted one on the dude, right? He goes, "Hey, coach, what's a Sambo?" I'm just like, somebody called you that? What in the hell? That's like. But anyway,
and Kenny's from Fulton, so for you know what I'm saying, so he kind of
it was
kind of in that whitey world, man.
Yeah, but I've never been around that, but I knew what it meant.
Well, no, I know.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So then we just turned it into a joke. For a while, even to every now and then I'll call him Sammy just because he's so stupid and ridiculous that
I can't believe you brought that up. I knew
we were going to avoid it because of what's going on today, but.
And I say that to say this. I want to thank you because right now I work at Fowler, like a full circle deal. I work at Fowler. I coach football there and I coach wrestling there, and it helps me to navigate these issues with these students.
Yeah.
We go out and we play the Fultons and the stuff like that. Even for wrestling guys, things are said to them on mat. And
man, when we played down at Cortland, I want to say my sophomore year, and they said to our coach, "You got any guns in that bag? We need to know about our football bag." And he went ballistic, and I was like, "We're about to put the wood to these dudes." I think we beat them like 78-0 or something like that. And they're like, "Why did you guys do that?" Well, man, they shouldn't say shit. Like, I don't know what to tell you. You know,
it's funny the little rumors. Like my first game in varsity, and then we'll let you go. So I was a junior playing D end, and I walk out. We're playing. It was Homer, I think it was, and they were like number 1 in the state.
Same thing, sounds about right.
Right, and we walk out, and the place is jam packed.
Great field down there.
Well, apparently, it was either Cortland or Homer, I forget which one, with Jeremy Hurd. So whoever Jeremy Hurd played for in high school, that's who it was. And Ron Vitullo, he was a great heavyweight wrestler. New Hartford. I'm sorry, New Hartford.
New Hartford.
So we're going out there, and the place is jammed, and they've got signs up. So apparently, there was a rumor that we were like, that people back home in Fulton were like cutting heads off of chickens and cats out by the railroad. So they had all these, like, dude. And I'll be honest, I'll tell this because it's hilarious. First play from scrimmage, Jeremy Hurd runs a sweep my side. First game I ever played DN. Ron Vitullo, again, all-state fullback, 250 pounds in high school, decleats me. My first play as a D end. I'm laying on the ground watching Jeremy Hurd go 83 yards on a sweep for a touchdown. I get up, I run to the sideline, and my defense coordinator goes, "Welcome to varsity, son." So I was just like, hey, I guess you don't take on a 250-pound fullback straight up when you weigh $170. You better find another way to figure that one out.
James, by the way, enjoy that new fancy little field you got down there, man. It's good that they finally got that finished up, brother.
Yeah, man, I can't wait till we get on it. That's gonna be absolutely beautiful for the school.
If you get to play football, you know what I mean?
You know, I'm just probably gonna step on it just to stand.
Just run around. Just gonna
throw the ball to myself real quick.
That's all. Just make sure you get video. You just take your socks off, feel the grass with your feet, brother. Put your toes in.
I'll definitely send that, man. I'm gonna keep that up. That's my word.
I like it.
Right, appreciate
Thank you for having me, guys.
No, thank you for cutting out some time for us. I know it was a late ask, but I appreciate you being available for us. So, listen, we changed our format a little bit. We're probably going to do it this way going forward. So, James, you're our first, our scapegoat, if you will, or our lab rat. We just changed our format, and we're basically going to sign off from here. So, we appreciate your time. He's a great dude. Look for him when the MMA starts back up, local MMA stuff, and when COVID goes away.
Are you still at Ultimate Athletics?
I am still at Ultimate Athletics, and I do a lot of my strength conditioning at Apex in Mattydale.
Okay.
Apex in the mall. Apex.
Yeah, no, it's right next to Basil Leaf if you're in Syracuse.
Right.
Yep.
Kyle Francis runs that spot. He also works out high school athletes. So if you're looking to bring your kid and get a good workout in, that's the place to go.
Easy, bro. Don't try to take my thunder on the high school kids, all right?
I'm sorry, sir. I'm sorry.
James, good to talk to you, man.
Good talking to you, too. Good seeing you.
All right, buddy. Good to see you. Stay out of trouble.
I'll try.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll tune in next week, all right? Hantke, good show. Welcome back. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, bud.
Right.